It was just another day for Dahlia as she stepped onto the escalator leading to the elevator. It was her routine every morning. Beside her, robots were making adjustments to the down escalator.
How lucky am I that these robots could not do my work? Because if they can, I might be jobless for the past 12 years. Lucky me.
Dahlia remembered the times when she went on her first trip on this trip. She was just a child, and her mother had taken her every time they had gone to visit her grandmother in the hospital. There were many people, but Maynard's robots were starting to be used. Nowadays, everyone who got on the train was headed to the center for work.
I miss going to the mall occasionally. They never go to the mall when I'm low on cash, or I don't like using debit cards. The system was so strict, it was a foolproof system. I remember when Nick and his friends tried to shoplift because they were in disguise, but ending up being caught and returning the stolen item anyway.
Come on, guys. We must hurry so we will not be caught. Get what you want.
Got it. Just get out of here.
How are we going to get out of here? Hey, Nick, don't leave us!
Sorry, guys.
Nick, I have received a letter that you have deleted in the store. Return that now or we won't have anything to feed you and the rest of the family. Listen, son. The government's computers have records of every person in this country, and it always needs to be updated if we want access to our money.
Nick returned the bracelet, for he also figured out that the store cameras had X-ray vision. As the next stop approaches, Delia saw Marielle through the window and waved at her. She wasn't sure if Marielle noticed her, but Delia was sure that Marielle knows right where to find her. Hey! So where's your brother?
On strike, rebelling as usual, even if nobody's following him anymore.
Why should anyone rebel? I mean, I don't get the point. So maybe our lives aren't as great as those of the people we take care of. But we certainly have things a lot better than our parents did. At least everybody has a job. Would you rather farm?
Nick complains just like in our grandparents' time. There's class division, and there's no way out of it unless you can afford to pay someone to take care of you for life. And that they pay us just enough to feed and clothe us and transport ourselves to the center, so we're not going to be able to break out of the cycle.
Well, that's just how things have been throughout history. Don't tell me it's becoming a Marxist like those people back in the 60s. Or was it the 70s? My god, that was 100 years ago. And they didn't accomplish anything, did they? Delia didn't let Marielle into her thoughts. She just remembered Reggie, her first and only love. Reggie had big dreams about the new society, free from the government they had today. He tried to escape and asked Delia to come, but Delia refused. Few weeks later, he was found lifeless next to his makeshift vehicle that somehow caught fire. Nick hinted darkly that Reggie was attacked by robotic patrol helicopters, but Delia believed it was just an accident.
One man alone seeking freedom wasn't a threat to society, was he?
Delia and Marielle got off the train, riding inside their vehicles, with their cars through the turnstile to the street. They stepped inside the elevator that conveyed them to the center itself. They entered their identity cards through another turnstile. The steel door opened to the large ward.
Welcome to Virtual Center.
They went to work in an enormous room with a domed ceiling. Its temperature was nearly freezing. Despite the sunlight filtered through the mirror-tinted glass, it did not have the temperature of a greenhouse. But it was like a greenhouse nevertheless, for it was here that the bodies were motivated. The room was filled with people's bodies strapped on chairs. They were fitted with masks, wires, electrodes, IVs, and feeding tubes. They reminded Delia of her grandparents on life support machines in the hospital after they had strokes or heart attacks, of her mother in the last days before she succumbed to kidney disease. Except that these people were not ill. They were the very rich, had given up on ordinary living and were living a virtual life. The masks on their faces were supposed to project images they watched, images corresponding to the type of life they wanted to lead. Electronic impulses gave them the appropriate sensations. Even their tongues had electrodes on them to simulate taste. Delia and Muriel's job was to check on their bodies during their waking hours. They were programmed to sleep at a certain time of the night and to wake up and experience their virtual lives at 9 in the morning every day. The caretakers monitored the individual bodies, watched for signs of distress, listened to the request, and inputted this into the computer by the bedside. They also observed them for any symptoms of illness or deterioration. There was not much work to do, but they were paid to stay there all day, making sure their particular charges were happy and healthy. They could not die if they were cared for properly. If one happened to die, then the income of that body's caretaker would be terminated.
Hi everybody, this is our new apprentice. She will be substituting for taking care of the body assigned to him.
Do I need to shake his hand?
Oh, you don't have to shake. The electronic gloves take care of making him feel the pressure. The electrodes send the message to the glove that he imagines he's shaking someone's hand. And that's when he feels it. Your job is to detect signs of complex emotions, mostly the negative ones, and then input them and your recommendations for relieving them. You have the emotions and symptoms charts, right? We veterans don't bother with that anymore, but you'd better refer to that now and then. Any questions?
Yes. If the support system is programmed to make their lives go the way they want it, how come they still feel unhappy sometimes?
Oh, it's a tough one. Well, I think it has to do with the hormones, and that when they want changes. And sometimes it has to do with the fact that some people like to feel pain, like this old lady. She's always complaining that something hurts, and I input that into the computer, and then she says, "Thank you, Iho," or "That's my good girl," or something like that. In the profile they gave me, there's this essay she wrote, where she says she wants to live in a virtual world where her children won't leave her and will take care of her.
Well, me, I am assigned to take care of Art. He gets frustrated sometimes though. When his song he's practicing doesn't sound right to him, the computer works it out so that he gets distracted from the song. There are some things that computer can do, like make a song sound perfect, not when Art himself doesn't know how he wants it to sound.
Look here, the body I take care of is dumb. He's really happy, as long as it's having pleasure. Though he gets into arguments with his jealous girlfriends once in a while. He likes making them jealous. The computer sets it up so that they always forgive him and come back to him.
Oh, thank you for sharing that to me.
Delia noticed that Bert didn't seem surprised that Nick wasn't around. She then thought that Nick might have told him about his plan, but Delia didn't want to ask Bert about it in front of everyone, for someone might report Nick, who had already been in trouble before for rebelling against the system.
Delia was just watching Art, and how she wished she'd known him before he had gone virtual. She would have understood him. She was sure she could have been his friend to him. Maybe he would have found the perfect girl in her. She wondered what his virtual girlfriend was like. Delia knew from his profile that he never found the perfect girls for him while he was living in the real world. Nobody understood him. He complained in his essay. Sure, he was popular, but the people who lived with him always told him he took things too seriously and laughed at things that were important to him. By the time he chose to go virtual, his popularity was flagging.
Finally, the work is done once again. I just want to go home. I'm too tired.
As Delia joined the tide of workers going to the MRT station, she thought she saw Nick in the crowd, but she told herself she was just hallucinating.
My wallet isn't here. Did it fall on my way here? Looks like I need to go back inside the center again. Oh, thank God, it's here.
Delia found her wallet was on the floor under her chair. Most of the apprentices had finished their work by then and were leaving. She should leave too. But she paused to gaze at Art, who was smiling and whispering, "I love you," to his girlfriend. Delia supposed. He looked so happy, and Delia longed to experience what he was experiencing. She impulsively bent and kissed him, and he continued to smile. The door alarm was sounding. The last remaining apprentices hurried through, and Delia ran after them. But just as she reached the door, there was an ear-splitting explosion. The door slammed shut before she could go through, and she crouched against it instinctively, covering her head. She felt the rush of the sinking air and sprinkle of pulverized glass as the window shattered. Alarms were going off all over the place, and she heard the sound of screams and stampeding feet down the moving walk. A rope was dropped through one window, and someone carrying a bright emergency lamp slid down it. Nick, of course.
What have you done?
No, I can't believe I set off the bombs too early. My fault for being too excited. Are you alright, Del?
What are you doing? Explain. The authorities will be here soon and I'd like to know what to tell them.
Oh, don't worry about them. They think the door has safely trapped me here until they're finished attending to the hysterical people outside. The security system didn't take into account someone blasting up the glass with homemade bombs and climbing through on a rope anchored to the steel with an electromagnet. Also homemade and pretty strong, another fault of our government.
Some of these people could die, like the lady who always pray. She must be over 100 years old.
Okay, then I'll concentrate my energies to the younger ones, like this guy.
But why?
They're the ones who've entrapped us in our lives. Delia, because of them, we've lost our freedom to choose how we make a living. Our entire lives center around taking care of the rich, so their money will take care of us.
But what's wrong with that? It seems like a fair arrangement to me. I was always happy with it.
Are you happy that they control the government? That they made the rules before they went out like this and we continue to follow them like program robots? We're kept so busy by their demands that we even stop noticing that what an unhealthy place the real world is becoming.
So what? Someday we could go virtual too.
If everyone were living in a virtual world, who would keep people alive? They set up the system in such a way that we can ever get out, so we'll always be there to look after them. Why do you think higher education is so expensive? So the lower classes won't learn how to operate supercomputers and complex machines, and we can sabotage them either. And of course, we are taught by our middle class teachers who have been bribed by the promise of an eternal virtual life after retirement that the system is perfect. Perfect for these people, maybe, but not for us. Come on, buddy. It's time to see what's happened to the real world since you've gone.
Ouch! Where am I?
Do you remember anything before going virtual?
I remember signing these papers. I wanted a certain kind of life, and they promised it to me. They promised I would never get old or die. I would be free to do whatever I wanted. Well, what other kind of freedom is there?
Free? That's a good one. Only in your mind. The old-fashioned kind. The kind of freedom which don't obtain at the expense of half of society's freedom. The kind of freedom where you are free to act but not to choose the outcome of your actions. That is freedom.
The authorities are here. What are we going to do? The helicopter is fast approaching.
Take them for a walk along the bay then. Do it for me.
As soon as they reached the bay, Art was surprised that a lot has changed. There were no more boats. Dahlia told him that the boats were moved to the museum, so they headed to the museum. The museum were never closed, though all the objects were kept safe from prying hands all day and night with burglar alarms. But there weren't really any objects displayed on the ships anyway. There were the display themselves.
I wish we could sail the ship.
Where would we go?
Aren't there still uninhabited islands around here?
Lots.
Maybe we could live on one of them, like those people in that show they used to have when I was a kid. Survivor. Did you ever watch that? They were always showing the reruns.
I don't think I remember seeing that. When I was a kid, technology was all anyone was interested in.
I cannot believe I bought into that.
But weren't you happy?
I thought I was. I guess I was. But I always felt there was something missing. And now, after a great escape, I know what it was.
What? What's that something?
Adventure, challenge, surprise.
You sometimes get frustrated over your music.
Petty, very petty of me. Here I am, nearly 40, and I haven't grown as a person at all. In my virtual world, I was always 27 or so. I never grew older, and I faced the same type of petty challenges over and over. I think I'd like to try something new. There's a sale here. I'm sure I can figure it out and its mechanism. And it's you I want, Delia. Will you come with me?
We only have few provisions. We could die out there.
We can get some more. Let's take things as they come. That's how my mother and I did it, and I survived.
I trust you, so I'll go with you.
Delia gazed at the face of the man she had cared for the past 12 years. She noted the determination in his expression, and she knew she could not leave him to risk his life alone, no matter how foolhardy she thought his enterprise was. They rode with a strong breeze to the south, not thinking to steer. They rationed their food and water carefully. Just when they thought they were going to succumb to dehydration, Art sighted an island. He took an oar and rowed them closer, struggling against the wind, then decided to adjust the sail. The boat drifted onto the shore of the tiny island.
At first, my father was disappointed to see some crumbling houses until he realized it was abandoned. Their first meal on their very own island was a bunch of coconuts. That is how my father, Art, and mother, Dahlia, started their new life. It was a wonderful life, but my mother sometimes wondered if we were better off the polluted cities, for she was also longing for her father and brother. Like my mother, I also wonder what life is like on the other side, across the waves of this beautiful island. My mother just wants the best for me. But she could not decide, as I saw her staring at the direction of Manila, wondering what was the best way to live.